Welcome to Tell Me About It, a podcast by SLPs for everybody. I'm Francie.
And I'm Maggie.
And today we are wading into the dredge ? That is Reddit. The SLP subreddit is a pretty active place. I go there for questions sometimes, and sometimes I avoid it like the plague. And today we're going to just dive in and see what people are talking about online.
Yeah, I have definitely found it to be sometimes helpful and sometimes kind of a rant zone, which is also needed.
It's needed.
It's also important.
I'm going to say this with love in my heart. So often, I don't think any of the SLPs in the SLP subreddit actually like their job. And I hate that for them because I love my job. That's, I think, overwhelmingly one of the posts that I see is complaining about this career. And I think that scares away a lot of undergrad and grad students to come to this place online and be like, everybody here is miserable. No, the happy ones just aren't making posts about it. That being said, there's also some really fascinating discussion going on in the SLP subreddit. And I'm excited to kind of dive in and explore what we're talking about online.
I will say that made me think my first ever experience with the SLP subreddit was in grad school. And I was really nervous about something. I think I was really nervous about getting a job. And I was having a lot of anxiety at the time, which was kind of unrelated. But I got on the SLP subreddit and it was all just posts about how people either were having a really hard time finding work or hated their jobs. And I had a full-blown crash out over it. And so I completely avoided the SLP subreddit for probably 4.5 years after that. And then decided to brave the waters once more.
Yes.
But
take
it can
everything
be a little tough.
It can be tough. Take everything they say with a grain of salt. And if you're a BCBA, don't go there. You will get absolutely hated on. And apologies to them. But
yeah,
not the place.
That's tough.
For you. I'm so sorry about that. It's a visceral place, like just full of hate and vitriol for BCBAs.
So we have kind of scrolled through some of the more recent posts and picked out a few that we thought would be fun to talk about. And yeah, I feel like we kind of picked a good mix of some ones that are a little more lighthearted, a little more serious and about actual issues or struggles. But let's see what the girls are talking about on Reddit.
And I think we've picked a really funny one to start off with. Our very first post is entitled, "How to Discourage Kids from Fat Shaming the Pig from Pop the Pig." And when I tell you, I've had this conversation with children.
If you are unfamiliar with the game Pop the Pig, it's a very popular game for SLPs because the rules are super simple. It's very easy to set up and clean up, and it's super open-ended. So basically, it's this little plastic pig wearing a chef's hat and a chef's white jacket and holding a little spatula that has a rubber stomach, like a rubber tummy. And you put little plastic hamburgers in the pig's mouth, and then you push down on his chef's hat, and you hear a click, and there's some kind of mechanism in his stomach that pushes it out, and he basically gets fatter and fatter until it's like a surprise game, until one time when you push his head, his jacket pops open because he ate so many hamburgers, so many plastic hamburgers.
And it's first of all, such a silly game. It is truly a therapy staple for me because you can work on turn taking, you can work on numbers because on the back of the little hamburgers have the little numbers for how many times you push his head. You can work on colors, you can work on just literally anything else and this just be the game that you're working on. I use it a lot for core word instruction with like in and push and the colors, and so I love this game. I really love this game. But the rest of this post says, like any other school-based SLP, I play a lot of Pop the Pig. Just started at the schools a few weeks ago after coming from an itinerant preschool and noticed lots of the kids say body shaming comments about the pig. Any tips to shut this down? I'm not sure how to put it into simple rules that kids understand. And I don't know if I should say calling somebody fat isn't kind, because I know that a lot of plus size individuals would reframe the word fat as a neutral descriptor. Maybe I'm overthinking this. It's just a toy pig. My brain is having a tough time. Oh, and I understand that, where like, quit being mean to my pig. It's full of burgers.
I feel for this person because I fall into that camp of, am I overthinking this? Like, is it truly this deep?
Right.
And in my experience, I have found the answer is no. It is not that deep.
It's really not that deep.
As much as we do want to instill kindness and, you know, this accepting open-mindedness in all of the children that we come into contact with, sometimes it's just a plastic pig.
In a chef's coat, who the game is to make him bigger. So
it's very cartoonish too. It's not, it is in no way could it ever be an analog for a person.
No.
It's so cartoonish. And I actually really feel for this person because I do think this a lot, or along these lines a lot. I realized when I started working with kids how much, especially older kids media, like stuff that we grew up with, it can be a little mean-spirited or can have vocab and language in it that I would not necessarily promote. Or sometimes it's just kind of weird. Actually, I have another version of Pop the Pig called Catch the Fox, and it's the exact same concept, except you're putting plastic chickens in the pockets of this fox that has these like big old jeans, and the jeans are made out of fabric. And it's really hard to describe in an audio format, but basically if you put the chickens in the fox's pockets and then push down on his head, at a certain point, it'll trigger the pants to, they like roll up inside of the plastic fox's body, and he's in his underwear, and all of the chickens like roll out, and you have to catch the chicken. So it really should be called Catch the Chickens, not Catch the Fox, but whatever. The idea is that the fox is robbing the hen house. So first of all, one, fox in underwear, being pantsed, which I did not like until I was actually playing it with kids. I was like, wait, is this inappropriate? I can't tell. Then two, he's taking the chickens away to eat them and murder them. So that's a little violent, because I've had kids be like, well, why is he taking the chickens? Why is he stealing the chickens? And I'm like, oh, because foxes are predators. So he's still in this like little scenario that we've contrived with this super cute cartoon fox. He's one, exposing himself, and two, not really, he's in his cartoon boxers, and two, gonna go eat all of these chickens. So yeah, and that I have just put that solidly in the camp of it is not that deep. It's so cartoony,
and it's so easy to get sucked into the overthinking things, specifically when you work with children. We mentioned a couple episodes ago, oh gosh dang it, we've made a commitment this episode to not say
Are we coming clean about
we're coming clean. I'm really focusing
to not
on it.
Say it's hard. So if we're talking a little bit slower, that's why, because we're trying not to say
we are
so much.
Challenging ourselves today. A couple episodes ago, we were talking about Pink Cat games, and one of the games is a monster that you can put different clothing items on, and one of those clothing items is a pair of like tidy whitey underwear. And I have redirected the children to be like, oh, it's a diaper. You're putting a diaper on the
That's so funny.
Because I was like, they're like, underwear? That's so funny, huh? And I'm like, no, not underwear. Diaper. More acceptable, because I don't want them to go home and be like, Miss Collins, let us put a like underwear on them. No, don't do that to me. It's a diaper. Because I'm 100% the person who's overthinking it. So
and so much of children's, we live in this very weird time. Oh man, I'm gonna sound like such a boomer. We live in this very weird time where a lot of people are thinking about how things can be construed and thinking about even like fat shaming a plastic pig, which honestly, I feel for this poster. And I also think that their heart is totally in the right place.
Yep.
Like, we don't want to be promoting bullying or meanness. I even bake into a lot of my games, especially in the schools when I would have big groups, of not teasing each other and using good sportsmanship. And even kids tease each other naturally when they're playing, but I would try to kind of shut it down a little bit and teach those sportsmanlike behaviors and kind words and that kind of thing. So we live in this time where a lot of people are thinking about that, and also in a time where a lot of school professionals are nervous that kids are going to go home and not just school professionals, but kids are going to go home and tell their parents something weird that happened at speech. And then the parents are going to come back and be like, hey, what the heck?
What are you teaching my child? And I'm like, I promise it's a cartoon monster. Nope.
Yeah, I feel like we feel like we're gonna get in trouble if
constantly.
we're not. Yeah.
The phrase that I tell myself frequently is that the SLP police are not going to come and take my license. I have to like calm myself down a lot because I'm like, I didn't do XYZ or I did do XYZ, and it's really not that deep, Francie. If you have a session where your session is based around a Phineas and Ferb episode because you have a really big headache, the SLP police are not going to come and take your license because you let a kid watch a TV show while also targeting their goals still. It just wasn't my... You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, yeah. The other thing I think that plays into this is you never know what kids are going to remember and latch onto, which is a total double-edged sword. Because when I think about my own childhood, and Francie, I'm sure you're the same, we probably have formative memories that stick out of like, this is when I learned that my words have power and I shouldn't say mean things to people. Like, I remember times when I maybe would call a childhood friend a name and maybe it really hurt their feelings or they cried or something. And in that moment, I learn, as my brain is like coming online, I learn like, whoa, my words have power and meaning.
Absolutely. Can I tell an anecdote about this? Because it's, I think, one of the funniest things. So my parents are older. And because of that, I consumed media that was probably way too mature for my age. When my parents were in their 40s, when I was itty bitty, so they were like, whatever. And one of those things was we watched Blazing Saddles when I was like 7, maybe 8.
My husband
like
I also grew up with the Mel Brooks filmography, and so
And I in the movie they describe one of the other characters as a bastard, and I was playing lawn darts with my brother because once again old parents, and I was like, something came in and I like went to my mom and I was like, John's such a bastard, and I'm like 8 at the time, and she's like, where did you learn that? And I was like, Blazing Saddles, and she goes, Francie, that's like a curse word, and I was like, what's that? Boy, did I learn that day. Paula Hubbard was also famous for the use of white vinegar whenever we said things that were not kind. So anyways, I also got some vinegar after that. I got vinegared for that. Which I'm just trying to learn.
Also, my number one crime as a child was mouthing off. Shocker. What? I know everyone's so surprised to hear that. But yeah, my number one crime was mouthing off or talking back. And so I think that's why I like vinegar now.
Okay, I know this is a tangent now. Tell me why balsamic vinegar is like one of my favorite things ever. Like, I love a pickle.
Balsamic vinegar in your mouth?
No, it was distilled white, babe. No, it was distilled white. This is also why I love. Walmart, she had an eyedropper. She would wash out.
Girl, we were getting tablespoons.
No, it was like a full-on pipette of vinegar. But
oh my gosh.
No, this is also why I like pickles. This is why I like sauerkraut. This is why I like most fermented foods now. So, anyways.
I mean, I hated it as a child. I remember one time sticking my tongue out at my brother and he tattled on me and we were both so young. And I think that my dad had probably just had it up to his friggin' eyeballs with us that day. And I got a tablespoon of vinegar in my mouth.
No, John was a spitter. My brother was kept that stuff in her purse. Paula was at the ready with her pipettes full of vinegar. And so Oh man. Anyways, going back,
Anyway.
that was a long tangent to say it's okay. You can play Pop the Pig and you can use it's really not that deep.
Yes. I think that it is good to promote and support kind words.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage this SLP to take some of the pressure off herself a little bit, just because I think it's also not 100% up to us to make sure that the kids we work with are turned into kind adults. It's also up to the other adults they interact with. So
Truly.
yeah. Yeah.
Truly.
But I feel for her.
I
I'm
do
assuming
too.
this
I know
person is
that
a
I
her
know that overthinking feeling
so
so
much. Yeah.
much. Our next post, not so fun. The sinking ship of American Human Services.
Yeah,
We've
to take
made
a hard
hard
pivot.
turn. Yeah, right. We are shifting gears, folks. We are shifting gears. All right. This post says, I don't hope to gain much personally by offering this post, but I do hope this helps some of the other newer SLPs. I think the reason why so many of us are on here venting is because we are working in the failed American human services, and what's worse is that speech, especially, is is a one-man band in most settings. So many of us are perpetually in a mental state of confusion and anxiety. Perfect timing. We just talked about that. Certainly, we are not at ease with our work environments. Some more than others. Honestly, I don't know if there's a single OT, SLP, PT, SPED teacher, or social worker that feels like everything was set up for them to have a successful, to have success on the job. This is an inherently materially selfish, capitalistic, and isolationist society that we live in. I don't know about the other countries represented on here on Reddit, but in the US, the US has consistently voted to keep social services underfunded with the explicit goal of private capital being prioritized here as a social and cultural value. We just simply don't believe in a social welfare state in the US. That is bad news for all the newbies just graduating or recently graduating. The bad news for all the newbies just graduating or recently graduating is that they weren't encouraged to think critically about the world around them in school and are now finding that everything they do, no matter what setting they go to, they have problems. To make matters worse, there's minimal diversity in the field, as with many other adjacent fields mentioned, and the qualities of ignorance, discrimination, and lack of empathy just get worse. Serving in poor areas is challenging. Oh, don't you and I know that? They have the most amount of negative variables to juggle around juggle around with outside. Sorry, that was word weird. They have the most amount of negative variables to juggle around outside of just speech, and then the resources and mileage are scant. This country was just voted or has voted in such a way that they have created this kind of inequality. And guess what? Speech as a service isn't going to do shit for people with the mindset that we are going to somehow fix them. The only thing that needs to be fixed is the degrading political atmosphere that created this vacuum of inequality. SLPs continue to vote against their own livelihoods by hurting our most vulnerable. By hurting our most vulnerable are like poison to me. They are disgusting that healthcare. It's disgusting that healthcare, housing, and food are not universal rights in one of the richest countries in the world. The minimum wage in my state is still at $7.25 per hour, and the average one-bedroom apartment is $1,100 a month. SNAP benefits are now on hold, and the current administration continues to block efforts to restore them. Meanwhile, my public school has no playground for children who need gross motor, fine motor, and communication support in our autism class. And our autism class just watches YouTube all day and are made to sit at a table while they watch said YouTube or have outdoor recess on some simple asphalt. I often worry that I'm not very good at my job. With my clinical skills are not great because the bandwidth is so minimal and I can't do all the phonology, cog, AAC behavior, and the paperwork for these kids and somehow say I made a difference. I get frustrated that I can't collaborate. I have to see kids in mixed groups that make no sense because of their schedules, and that most of my time is spent focusing on their paperwork, not their actual needs. Or I'm so overwhelmed by said impossible demands that I want to hide under my desk. I don't think the other fields are much different in this way. And this is what we all need to be talking about, the why part. The answer to the why is political in nature, whether grad school or ASHA have the balls to say it or not. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
We have talked about on this channel before how disability is inherently political, and how so many of our students are going to be impacted by political decisions that may not seem like they directly impact them, but they are. Got any thoughts, Maggie?
Wow, that post, like, I have felt every single thing that writer is feeling right now, and I also agree with them. We talked last year when we worked together about feeling like we were standing in front of a forest fire with like a kitchen fire extinguisher and just like trying to get tufts of grass that were near our feet while there's this blazing inferno in front of us and we know we can't do anything about it. It burned me out big time. Burned me out so bad I switched settings. And yeah, I think that probably there is a portion of speech language pathologists who consider themselves apolitical or consider themselves unaffected by politics, policy. We've kind of touched on this before, but this field is predominantly white and predominantly female. And there is a level of privilege that comes with that, where we don't necessarily have to think about policy all the time because, quite frankly, it doesn't affect us a lot. But that doesn't mean that it's not there. That doesn't mean that the harm isn't real and the hurt doesn't exist. So SLPs that consider themselves apolitical, I think, are deeply misguided in that, because everything about this job is affected by politics. The way we get paid is affected by politics. The insurances that I am allowed to take and can, the services that I provide are affected by policies. Schools obviously are directly impacted. So it's a little bit. But also,
we have students who are kind of indirectly impacted. At our last school, we did deal with a lot more lower SES populations. And now with SNAP being a big question, can kids learn when they're hungry? And so it's surprising how many things are truly touched by politics, even if you're not actively thinking about the direct correlation or the direct causation of those things. And it's hard. It's really hard. Maggie, it's easy to get burned out. I'm still in the schools, and that's not for a lack of questioning it. Because it's really difficult to kind of look around at the system and be like, well, everything is on fire. How can I operate within the flames? Because that's what we have to do. And it's not fun a lot of the time.
Yeah. Poverty is political. And education is political. Health is political. And I think it's irresponsible to act otherwise. Yeah. This is a sad one. And
this one is a sad one.
I think that it's the trajectory of how things are going is not trending upward. Like, it doesn't look like it's going to get better for human services in America anytime soon, which is also really, really sad. But yeah, I know you and I, we're kind of fighting Maslow's hierarchy of needs a lot of times at school, where kids would come in hungry, they hadn't slept well, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're like, okay, let's talk about how to use irregular past tense verbs. And you're just thinking, this is so dumb. Why am I doing this?
And it's not just at the school level. The top comment on this post said, I had a very sobering moment at work when I was talking to a guy who had just had a stroke with some residual deficits, dysarthria. And I was discussing with him what we'd work on with him during his stay. And I'd refer to the outpatient services if he was interested. How much is this going to cost me? I told him that most insurances cover speech therapy for at least 12 sessions. And he said to me, I don't have insurance. Yep.
That's the thing too. Something that you and I talked about a lot was, at school, we're not working just with children, because children become teenagers who become adults. And poverty is not only political, it's also cyclical. And sometimes can be lifelong. And so when we're sitting with a fourth grader that has, maybe moderate disability, is moderately impacted by their disability, and is making their way through school, we're also thinking about, how is this person going to be set up for success when they graduate? And when they get a job, I think the poster noted that minimum wage is still $7.25 in a lot of places, which is laughably little. And thinking about the kids that we work with, if they have lifelong disabilities, they are probably going to be making very little and not be able to support themselves. It's really bleak when you follow these realities to their logical conclusion. It's really bleak.
And it's heavy. It's really heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy and it weighs on you. And I think this contributes to a lot of burnout in the field, with this feeling of like, I can't stop this. And it oftentimes feel like we said, like sitting in front of an inferno and having a little kitchen extinguisher. Yeah. I don't know. I find that it's still worth it to give it my best shot. I know you do as well, which is why we're still both SLPs and why we talk about it. I have hopes and dreams of a future where these issues are not as pressing. And that's why I still work in schools. So that's my little hopeful message at the end of that. So
100%. Yeah. I was talking to some other private practice owners somewhat recently about this, and many of us had started our careers in the schools. And I was talking about my experience with burnout, and we just were kind of chatting about that for a little bit. And I said, I really want to make it clear that I still believe in public education. And I believe in it so much that I want it to be better,
Absolutely.
And so therefore I'm not afraid to criticize it and to call out flaws that I see. And ultimately I needed to change settings for my own mental health. It wasn't about, I wasn't going to be a martyr, so to speak.
Right. You didn't leave because you were like, I hate the schools. You left for your own health and safety while still believing in the message of free public education. Totally. And I totally respect that. Speaking of mental health, the next post is introverts, how to maintain social life. Hello. Something I never considered with this job is how socially draining it is. Any tips on how to maintain a social life outside of work? I'm leaving feeling drained every day, but also feeling sad that I don't have any energy to pour into making and maintaining friendships. Oh boy, you are looking at or listening to two introverted SLPs. And so this is something I deal with frequently. I am not somebody who recharges with other people, and our job is all about social connection all day long, and I love it. I do come home and not speak for an hour or drive home in silence.
Yeah, the drive home in silence can really work wonders. I don't know how long this person's commute is, but if you get in your car and don't turn on anything, just drive home in silence. Sometimes that gives you just enough of a little boost to interact with your roommate or your partner, whoever you live with, when you arrive home without feeling like you're about to fall asleep standing up.
I have had the same after school routine for 4 years at this point. And I really think it contributes to my success outside of work, maintaining social friendships. And it is as follows: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I work out. So I usually have headphones in, and it's another time for me to just recharge and be with myself, which I really love. Tuesday, Thursday, I come home immediately and I take a shower. I do this every single day with whether it's working out and then showering or just coming home and straight showering. And that time is so healing for me, just to wash off the day, be silent and by myself. And I come out of it at like 5 o'clock and I'm like, I'm a different person now. And that's really healing for me. And so I've also had to set, for those of you who have been watching the show or know me personally, we moved. And now we are in an area that has a lot more friends. And so I've been having a lot more social engagements, and it's exhausting to me. And I'm having a very hard time maintaining my social life as well as my sanity. And so I've come to the conclusion, and I've had to set some boundaries. Saturdays are for socialization. Sundays, I am a recluse, and it's a great system. It's working really well so far.
Yeah, that is a great after school routine. I'm pretty bad at maintaining routine in unstructured time. My executive functioning skills are not great, so which is also makes this job kind of hard. I have a lot of external supports, but that is a great suggestion. My saving grace at school was eating lunch alone. And I would make it very clear to people like, hey, I think that you're awesome. And I would love to sit and chat with you on my lunch break. But unfortunately, I have been talking nonstop since 8 o'clock this morning, and I need to go sit in my room and not speak to anybody.
Absolutely.
And everybody respected that. And it was really nice. And on the days when I felt like I did have more energy to kind of expend, I would join people for lunch and stuff. But a lot of times I was like, peace and blessings, goodbye. And would sit in my room, close my office door and pull the shade on my window and not be available for anyone. But yeah, I think that having a set portion of time over the weekend or on a certain weeknight, or maybe a little portion of each weeknight to be in introvert mode is absolutely vital for mental health. It's tough. I think I lucked out because my husband is also very introverted. And so we will do our after school routine of we get together, chat, maybe eat dinner together, and then it's like, all right, love you, bye, and we'll go off
and go to your separate designated areas.
Because we both need that time to, even though time together is restful in its own way, we also need that time to just be alone, and that's okay.
And that's okay. No, having really strict boundaries, I think, is such a good thing, and having a good routine for yourself will keep you going when you have a socially drained battery.
There really
and
should
not a socially charged one.
Yes, there really should be a support group for introverted SLPs. I actually saw an SLP that I follow online post about this, and it was the split you would expect. A ton of people answered that they were extroverts, but not 100%. A lot of people said they were introverted SLPs, and it is tough, but we're out there.
I do think I would encourage people who are introverts to still pursue this field, because I find it, while yes, this job is you have to be on and you're talking most of the day, honestly, small groups are really not that bad. This was the reason I couldn't be a teacher, is because I can't do a group of like 20 or 25. But my small groups, my 1 to 3 students, though it is a lot, it's really could be worse. It's manageable.
Yeah. And I do think that social time with children is different. Like if you're in pediatrics,
it's just a different world.
It's different. And
therapy Francie and home Francie are like 2 different people sometimes.
Yes. And I would go into your office at the end of the school day a lot and just like lore dump of what had happened all day, because I was like, oh, sorry, you're the first adult I've spoken to since 8 a.m.
Yes. One of my afternoon students on my schedule right now has a para, and oftentimes that para is the first adult I will talk to between like the hours of like 8 o'clock to like 1:30.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love you. Please, I need to have an adult conversation for like a minute, and then I promise I will get back to therapy.
I have to have a conversation where I'm not in charge for just a second. And then
truly.
Yeah, it is. It can be tough. It can be really tiring. And it is, I think it takes a conscious effort to pour into the friendships and social relationships that you're trying to cultivate when you do have more time to recoup. But we do it.
Oh, the phrase that my husband and I have been saying a lot in this household is to have a village, you have to be a villager. Because we are both people who, and I don't know if this happens to anybody else, I dread social engagements up until the moment that I have to go to them, and will think about canceling them up until the arrival. And then I'm like, oh my God, this is so much fun. But every moment up to that, I'm like, I should stay home. I don't want to do this.
I'm not going to do this. Yeah.
That's it. I'm not going. Like that's my mentality up until arriving, and then I usually have so much fun, and then I get home and Jack's like, "Did you have fun?" And I'm like, "I had a blast." But I will think about canceling every moment because I am somebody who is truly introverted. But to have a village, you need to be a villager, and that's my mantra to get out there. So
I love that mantra that you guys have. My addendum to that, which I have been telling myself, is that the cost of being in community is being inconvenienced.
Truly.
And absolutely, this has to be balanced with your own mental health. You can't burn yourself out on social engagements either, but sometimes you may go out of your way to be a little inconvenienced for the greater good of a relationship or a group that you're in, et cetera,
Truly.
et cetera. So but a balance must be found. And I feel like it's less of a balance and more of like a give and take. So
it's truly a give and take. Yeah, you have to have both. Truly.
But it's tough. We see you.
Yeah. We are you.
Yes.
Next post. Why will they not look at me? I work with peds in a private practice setting. Lately, I feel like no matter what I try, I cannot get a majority of these kids to look my way and watch my mouth while I model, not even when I just do a single word. I have a little bit more success when I am beside them and we're both looking in a mirror, or if I use realistic cue cards taped to the mirror. It's so frustrating, though. I'm tired of repeating, "Hey, look at my mouth. Watch me first. Do it with me. Suggestions welcome." Does not specify. Actually, OP goes on to say, or the original poster goes on to say, that they only have 1 or 2 kids with a ASD diagnosis, and the majority are not. And I understand this.
Yes, I have also experienced this. I have clients that are not autistic, not on the spectrum, who will not look at my freaking face no matter what I do. And it is really frustrating. Or they'll look at my face for literally a split second and then look away. And it's so annoying. And I don't know what the root cause of it is either. I'm like, why can't you look at my mouth and I'm not asking for prolonged eye contact. I'm asking for like, look at my mouth while I produce a word and then you can look away.
This is specifically in articulation contexts. Like I am trying to teach a sound, particularly a visual sound. It's always TH or F. Be for real. It's always like a TH or F situation. Or R's or something where I'm like, please look in my mouth right now. And it's so hard to maintain that attention. I have started to hold a mirror underneath my face, like just a little hand mirror underneath my face or next to my mouth for them to watch and then watch themselves. And I found that to be a little bit more successful. But it's really, dang it, there's an again. It's really difficult to maintain the attention. I've oftentimes thought, are my games just too engaging? Are we like playing too much and we can't switch our attention to look for a second? I don't know the answer to this either. Somebody says put a puppet next to your face and I would rather die. Fun fact about me, I hate puppets in therapy. Get those freaky little things away from me. I hate them so much.
That is so funny. I will use the trick with young kids of holding something up next to my mouth so if we're playing with, toy cars or whatever, I'll grab one of the toy cars and hold it up next to my mouth and then put it back down. It's not like a withholding strategy. It's your attention is on this thing, so I'm going to put it up here. But I have noticed this with my school age reading students where we're already doing something extremely structured. And if I'm working on spelling or something, I'm giving them a word to spell, I need them to look at my mouth so that I know that they are getting, because some sounds can kind of sound the same or some words can sound similar. So I want them to look at my mouth briefly and then repeat back to me what I just said so that I know we're on the same page. And that is like pulling teeth. Like you would think that I'm really trying to pull their teeth.
Yes.
They don't want to look at my face for even 1 second. And it's already a very structured activity. So I don't know what it is, man. but I'm right there with you.
There are some really good recommendations, with the exception of the puppet one. It's not happening in
Which
Mr.
Francie will
Collins's
not be
speech room.
doing.
Miss Francie is not using puppets, okay? Out of the speech room. But somebody recommended changing their voice, using like an old man voice or a bear or a baby voice. Somebody else recommends the phrase, look at my nose. And the comment just says, tell them to look at your nose. I'm serious. And that made me giggle reading that. But have them watch your nose.
Yeah.
Another comment says, I usually ask, wait, where'd your eyes go? In a silly voice. And they almost always smile, look, and then look. And then I say, oh, there they are. Caveat, this is only for neurotypical children. And I'm actually going to try those. I'm going to stick some of those in my pocket.
Everyone's honing in really hard on this is only, like, this doesn't count for kids on the spectrum. Which,
if I'm trying to teach an articulation sound, you're gonna have to. You don't have to look at my eyes. I don't care if you look at my eyes. I'm not looking for eye contact. I need you to look here for cues. And so
that's kind of where I'm at with it too.
Yeah,
I am not going to force a kid to make eye contact with me just because I don't think that's important.
I don't think it's functional or natural, to be completely honest.
It's kind of a dumb politeness rule that has really fallen by the wayside. And especially a kid that I know is autistic, I'm not gonna force them to look at my face, or look at my eyes. There are times, however, and we're talking about brief. We're talking look at my mouth while I produce this sound or word. It's not stare at my face for 5 minutes. It's like
watch me make this sound and then look at yourself so we can make this sound together. Like it's very snappy. But it's really hard.
I feel like the caveat of and I also feel like a kid being on the spectrum wouldn't fully explain it either, because a lot of kids that are autistic are great at looking at people's faces, and that's not a thing that they really have a hard time with. So
maybe I need to be better at explaining why I'm having you look at my face and being like, hey, I need you to watch so that you can get a clue as to where your tongue goes or wherever your lips go or things like that. Maybe be a little bit more clear. Maybe that's a me thing. Maybe I need to do that.
Maybe. I have definitely done those explainers and still not had success. So I think sometimes, and it depends on the kid, but sometimes it's that the kid is not interested in being at speech therapy, just point blank period. No matter how fun you make it, no matter how much you gamify it, they are just not into what you're doing. And that's unfortunate because we're here. And if you're at school, it's like, well, this is unfortunate because I have these minutes I have to fill. So sorry that you don't like it. But and some, I think that they truly just maybe don't even have the attention span for it, or don't have the inhibition skills to look at somebody's face instead of looking at whatever is interesting in the room, interesting to them. So I don't know, man.
I don't either.
It's a tough one.
It is a tough
one.
One
thing we do know is that Francie will not be using puppets.
Get those freaky little things away from me.
How dare you ask her to?
Hate puppets. And okay, fun fact about me, it expands beyond just puppets. I also can't do mascots. Mascots freak me out. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but like the plush freaks me out. I can't do it.
I don't like any mask where the mask doesn't move, but you can hear the person talking behind it. That spooks me. I don't like that at all.
No,
and I mean like a full face mask. The COVID masks, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean like a full,
like a Halloween mask.
Yeah.
Or something. Next post. Should school-based SLPs target literacy? Why or why not? I know Maggie's answer. Maggie's answer is yes, you should. Top comment says no. Controversy. And overwhelmingly, the comments in this were no. Usually they had some type of like qualifier or something after it. There's an again strike. I'm gonna have to start like a jar or something. Anyways,
that's why I'm talking so slow and putting so many freaking pauses, because I'm really trying not to say
I talk so fast. It's a huge problem of mine. I need to slow down when talking.
It's okay. Anyways, we'll get better. We'll get better.
We will get better at this.
It'll take practice.
Most of the comments say no in this thread, which is really mind-boggling to me. Most of them have a caveat or some type of like exclusionary clause. There it is again. Anyways, first comment says no. My biggest reasoning is that we're supposed to be providing specialized instruction that only the SLP can give, which is part of qualifying. Does the student actually need specialized designed instruction that the SLP can give? However, there are literally reading specialists on campus. Their entire degree is in literacy. Do I incorporate literacy into my sessions? There's the caveat. Yes, all the time. But am I qualifying for literacy or making literacy-based goals? No. Another comment in this thread said something that I agree with, which were that they didn't teach literacy. Here it was. I think we should be targeting literacy in our complex communicators because nobody seems to know what the hell they're doing in that department. And I agree. One of my biggest pet peeves is that nobody seems to know how to teach literacy to kids in life skills classrooms. And that makes me want to beat my head into a wall. Literacy is the biggest life skill. That's like one of the only things we should be working on, in my opinion. Or one of the biggest things we should be working on. So I'm kind of shocked. Most of the comments say no. Somebody says outside of schools, yes, if the SLP is competent in that area. Inside schools, phonological awareness, sure. If the difficulties are so significant that they aren't making reading progress without us, decoding, encoding, fluency, and even rapid naming deficits, I would leave to teachers. Regardless of the student's goal, we can broadly support literacy by increasing interest in books and stories. My students love story time, and I incorporate books into therapy often. Somebody just says no. That's the whole comment.
I deeply disagree with all of these.
Oh, Maggie, here we go.
Okay,
absolutely, yes. School-based SLP should be targeting literacy, not because we are trying to replace reading specialists, but because language is a foundation of literacy, and literacy weaknesses are often disguised as weaknesses, are often language's weaknesses in disguise. There we go. There we go.
My thing that I was going to say about all of this is that why do so many SLPs and other professionals seem to think that language and literacy are different? Like,
they are so tied. They are so tied together.
Literacy is a skill built on language. If you have trouble with language, you will, period, have trouble with literacy.
Absolutely. And also, my issue with the first person's comment with like, oh, well, they have reading specialists in the building. Oftentimes my kids on IEPs don't get tiered reading intervention services and aren't seen by reading interventionists because they're on an IEP. And so I hate to break it to you folks. You should, I think you should be, or at least incorporating literacy, if not directly teaching it, incorporating it into your lessons. I think it is so important. I just, even in articulation kids, you can incorporate literacy into your Arctic sessions.
And you should be.
And you should be. And you should be.
Yeah, so if you have trouble with language, you will have trouble with reading, period. If you have trouble with speech, you will likely have trouble with spelling. For some of our straight up Arctic kids where it's not a phonological disorder, it's not apraxia, it's just they're not saying that sound correctly, a lot of times they're able to spell things correctly, and it's not a big deal. But for a lot of kids, for kids who have highly unintelligible for speech, for kids that have phonological errors, they are going to struggle with spelling, period. Like I think that it's absolutely ridiculous how we have siloed speech and language away from literacy when they are two sides of the same coin. And I get what they're saying. And sometimes you have to be careful depending on the setting that you're in, not to step on people's toes or not to treat outside of your scope. But I am of the mind that literacy is very firmly within the scope of an SLP. And just because we may not have specialized training in it, doesn't mean you can't get specialized training in it. I did the Orton Gillingham training thing, and it was really expensive and time consuming. So I know that's not accessible for most people, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to do the whole, expensive multi-week class over the summer. You can do some CEUs. You can learn a lot of districts will pay for other, service providers to get trained in certain things or to do PD in those areas.
If you live in the state of Missouri and you are an SLP and you work in the schools, it is free to get trained in letters, which is a science of reading-based approach. It's worth it. My district uses UFly, and I've just been reading the material book for UFly and just
UFly is also great.
UFly is awesome, and just upping myself on my knowledge of UFly. I don't have any formal literacy training. I've just been trying to incorporate more literacy into my sessions just to be more holistic as a practitioner.
Yeah.
It's been working really well.
And that will be such a benefit to your students.
Well, I had kind of a harrowing moment when I was in my first and second year. I had been working with a student since kindergarten, so it was my third year. This was last year, now that I'm thinking about it. I had a kind of a harrowing moment with a student who I'd been working with since kindergarten, who was now a second grader, who had been phonological, and we had remediated, it was middle consonant deletion, or middle syllable deletion, that he had been producing, and remediated it in speech. And his second grade teacher comes to me and she says, he can't read the middle syllables of words, or when he's spelling, he's dropping the middle syllables of words. And I went, what have I done? What have I done? And it was amazing how much just a little bit of phonological awareness tasks and just ever so slightly, it was not much therapy, got him totally reading on grade level. And that year, his iReady scores were at grade level. Big celebration. It was something so minor that I had to do to incorporate into his speech therapy to help him read. It was so worth it. It was so worth it. And I felt like a dingus for missing it the first time.
And I think that so many SLPs are kind of this mind and are encouraged away from incorporating literacy because of this absurd siloing of literacy and language skills.
Or the mindset that somebody else is going to do it for them. I see that a lot in schools.
So, okay, this was bringing me to my next point, which is, and this cannot be the literacy episode, I understand that, so I'm going to keep it short. If you are an SLP in the schools, you need to know how your school or your district is teaching literacy and whether or not it's effective, because the odds are good that it is not based in science and is probably not effective for a lot of the kids at your school, even typically developing kids. We have a problem in the US that started decades ago. Again, this is not the literacy episode. We're not going to get into it, but there's a problem across hundreds of districts in the US where effective literacy approaches are not being used. And it's we are winding up now with the problem of a lot of students being really good guessers and really terrible readers. COVID played a big piece in this. Kids being out of school for a while played a big piece in this. Obviously, as an SLP, disability is going to play a part. But if you're in the schools, you need to be aware of what curriculum your school is using to teach reading.
I've been really diving into RTI with my new district. They have a big emphasis on RTI. And I can't tell you how important quality tier 1 instruction is to prevent your own caseload from getting bigger. If you have really strong literacy education and curriculum, you will see less kids on your caseload or being referred to you for RTI. And it's going to help you out. I promise.
Yeah. And that has a lot to do with a bunch of the social and political issues that we talked about earlier. You and I could yap for 6 hours about this, and we're not going to, but suffice it to say, reading, I think that literacy is one of, if not the biggest skill for independence and occupational success, job success after school. So for our kids, especially our kids with lifelong disabilities, literacy has to be a priority, has to. And it's not in so many cases. I think that people think that they won't be able to achieve it, or it kind of gets put on the back burner because there are so many other things to be working on. So in those cases, I suggest to SLPs, while you are working on verbal communication, or especially AAC, I'm knife handing over here on the video. I'm especially AAC, you should be working on literacy.
Absolutely.
Do the PD, do it. Don't listen to these girls in the comment section. They're wrong.
And it's going to make your life so much easier, and you're going to see such greater success in your kids if you incorporate literacy. Like it's so worth it, and kind of like a perpetual, it starts off a perpetual motion of success. It's 100%. So important. If you want to learn more about the literacy crisis in America, I highly recommend the Soul to Story podcast. Fascinating. Does a really good job of laying out everything that's happened over the last 40 years in the literacy conversation in America at a political level. Highly recommend it.
I will also say, yes, I was able to take part in a structured professional development, course with Orton Gillingham. There is a level of privilege there. It was expensive. It was time consuming. So I'm not saying that something of that level is accessible or attainable for everyone, but as an encouragement to SLPs listening to this, you already have the language skills to teach literacy. The biggest thing that I gained from going through that course was having someone who is an expert in reading show me how to put the pieces together of what I already knew how to do. There was a lot of stuff in that course that was review for me, a lot of stuff that I already knew and was familiar with. It was just giving me the tools and the vocab and the kind of structure to teach reading effectively. So SLPs, you've already got the knowledge. You already have 95% of it. It's just going to take some initiative on our part, because a lot of grad programs don't teach this. It's going to take some initiative on our part to fill in that other 5%. But I believe in you. You can do it. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be crazy.
It doesn't. Also, I highly recommend interprofessional collaboration. Talk to your reading specialists. They are so fascinating. I've been having really great conversations with ours. It's surprising how much of our jobs overlap and how different our jobs are. I started using the analogy that I am like a mechanic working on the engine of our children's brain car, for the lack of better terms. And
totally brain car, yeah.
Brain car. We're working on some of those mechanical things to make the car go, or to make the reading go. And it's very fascinating to talk to the reading specialists, because while they know the curriculum and can teach it really well, sometimes they don't know the theory behind why their curriculum is the way that it is. And we've been having really awesome conversations to help make those pieces together, and it's helping both of our practices. And I love that for me.
Yeah. Again, not trying to I get not wanting to step on toes. I don't think that SLPs getting in on the literacy game is stepping on toes. And
often we're working with different populations. I think that's a really important thing to talk about. RTI and kids who are in interventions oftentimes are not the kids on IEPs. And if they are, it's a very few amount of children.
Yeah. The comments on that post did not pass the vibe check for me. I wholeheartedly disagree with almost all of them. We got to stop acting like literacy is different than language. It's not. It's a skill that only runs it's a program that only runs on language software. So if you don't have that, then you're not. And schools do this too, where they'll say oh, well, they don't have a language disorder. They have trouble reading. I'm like,
hey, guess what? Tell me the difference between these two pictures, and it's the same
corporate corporate needs you to find the difference between these two pictures. And yes, there's levels to that. And
not everything is a kind of disorder, but
right. And dyslexia, a lot of kids with dyslexia, even though dyslexia is a language-based reading disorder, they might not have any verbal symptoms of a language disorder, but kids with dyslexia are more likely to be late talkers. They're more likely to have speech sound disorders. They're more likely to have language disorders. So even though you might not be able to see it from the outside, we've talked about dyslexia being that invisible disability, right? It is still language based. So yeah, SLPs, we don't need to take over this field at all, but we absolutely should be collaborating with reading specialists, dyslexia therapists. We should be collaborating with the people that are already doing it to, like Francie said, be the mechanics for the brain car. And yeah, it's just hugely important. It's hugely important. So,
man, if I'm one thing, I'm eloquent, huh?
You are eloquent.
Oh my gosh. One of the last posts that we're going to be talking about today is the grad school and CF process feels like institutionalized hazing. And if you even dare to suggest any aspect of the system should be changed, they say, well, maybe you're just not cut out for this field, or I got through it just fine, so why can't you? I'll never understand why the institutions that run this field are so intent on weeding out prospective new professionals when we are in such a dire shortage. Most of the comments in this thread are all in agreement about how we are taught as SLPs.
Yeah.
You had a different grad school experience than I did, so you go first.
I did. I was going to say I have mixed feelings about this because while, yes, I do think that it could absolutely use some restructuring, I don't think that it should be done away with entirely, which I don't think this is what the poster is suggesting at all. But we have seen what happens, or what can happen when you kind of like, okay, there's a shortage of this profession. I'm thinking specifically of teachers here. Okay, there's a shortage of this profession. Let's just lower the bar for entry. And then what you wind up with is a bunch of people that do not have the education and training to do the job effectively and that are now in the job. And that's just going to cause a whole slew of problems that we don't want. That being said, the barrier to entry for SLP is high. I feel like the answer lies with fixing kind of the social issues that lead into that barrier to entry being so high versus lowering the bar overall. However, I also agree that working full-time unpaid as a grad student and then doing my whole CF year where I was a full SLP. Like, you're a full-fledged SLP at that point. You're licensed. You are doing all the SLP things. Someone is supervising you a little. They're like peeking in, making sure that you're not doing anything crazy and kind of guiding you and training you up a little bit. And then at the end of the year, I just had to pay like $600 or whatever, which on a school SLP salary,
painful,
was so, it was like, I saw that number on the ASHA screen and I was like, oh my God, hang on, and pulled up like my banking app and had to like take money out of like savings and be like, oh, let me move some stuff around because I wasn't expecting to spend $600 this afternoon.
Right.
To get some letters behind your name, which again, you already are a full-fledged SLP at that point. So I have mixed feelings about it. I think that it is kind of a mess, but I don't think that we should do away with it entirely. Like, I think there needs to be something. There has to be some kind of training structure, and it should be pretty rigorous, I think. But it doesn't have to be to the level, especially of like this person is saying they feel like it's institutional hazing. It shouldn't rise to that level.
I agree with that. We are master's level or like advanced degree clinicians. And so I do think there has to be a level of rigor. That does not need to be hateful. My grad school, my professors at my university were fabulous. I had a really wonderful experience in the learning side of things in my master's. When I got out to my outplacements, I had some really hateful CFs or some really hateful site supervisors. And it was very much that mindset of like, well, I had to suffer and now it's your turn to suffer. We all have to go through this. This is what it is. And I now, as somebody who supervises grad students, CFs, and SLPA students, don't have that mindset. I don't think that you guys should have to suffer in order to become well-rounded, seasoned clinicians. I actively don't want that for you. And I hated that it had to happen for me. And so I agree that there's like this element of like spite that like somebody had something wrong done to them in their educational experience and now they're perpetrating that onto other students because that's just the way it is. My husband and I talk about this a lot because he is in a career field that has a very similar mindset where like well, everybody has to go through the shit to be able to get to where you are, right? And that's not necessary. It's just not necessary. So very fortunate for my grad school itself to not have that mindset, because my professors were truly lovely, and really fostered a love of my field. Placements, hop on board.
Yeah. I had an outpatient hospital placement in grad school where I was working well over 40 hours a week, unpaid, and it turned me off of working in that setting at all. Like I have no desire to work for a hospital outpatient center because that outplacement was so rough. And it was only 5 weeks long. That's the other crazy thing. It was
Right?
just over a month, and I think about it all the time. Like it was so tough. I felt so overworked and underappreciated. And that maybe like speaks to, I think that speaks to other issues in the field of being overworked and underpaid. But yeah, it was, I just remember thinking like I would get these really nitpicky critiques, and I'm not talking like, hey, you actually implemented this treatment incorrectly. Here's some notes for next time. I'm not talking constructive criticism. I'm talking, let's sit down and go through your SOAP notes together line by line and change the wording on this, because it could just be a little bit more clear. And I'm like, I've been here for 11 hours and you're keeping me to go over wording for not to get it approved by insurance. Like my note was perfectly fine. It would have gone through. It was, I don't know. It was just this like totally unnecessary.
I think I've told you this before, but I almost failed a single CASA competency because this one supervisor didn't like my personality. I remember, I had to go to our like coordinator at the university and be like, they gave me a 2.5 on this CASA competency, and they told me to my face that they don't think I'm going to be a good clinician because of my personality. And just I actually found the email back from that like professor to be like, I am so sorry you had to go through this. Like it was.
That is, I don't think that you've told me about that. You told me about this
yes, placement. It was my second semester, second year. So this was my last placement before graduation. And it's like April, and they did my final thing and they were like, yeah, you don't have a personality that I think would be good for kids or like good in this like field.
I know this is an audio format. I don't have much to say about that. I'm sitting here with the most shocked and appalled look on my face.
And so for those of you who
is great, first of all. Don't be mean to my friend. Second of all, you're a great clinician.
They're telling me this in the middle of a tropical smoothie. I like at our like last like
oh my God.
And I remember being like, so for those of you who aren't in a SLP master's program, we have to meet a certain amount of competencies, and you're graded 1 through 4 on the competencies. 3 is like you're meeting expectation, 4 is exceptional. Anything less than a 3, and if you don't meet all your competencies, you don't get your master's. And they gave me a freaking 2.5.
That's so this is okay. This is, I think, why I initially had pause about this. That's not institutional.
No,
that is a person.
That's just hateful.
That's just hateful. Yeah. So there has to be something. There has to be a training process here. I think that maybe there are some institutional practices that grease the skids and perhaps allow individuals like this to be hateful and to be supervisors. Yeah. But like, isn't that crazy? I'm trying really hard not to cuss right now because
isn't that crazy? Because that's
insane.
That's the thing that's crazy to me. I feel like I'm a really good pediatric clinician. Like
you're a great pediatric. This is not even just as your friend who thinks you're amazing. You are just objectively a great clinician.
And that's the thing. Like I really like this job, and so to be told that like they thought that I was like not a match essentially.
Oh my
And they
God.
told me that halfway through the placement and they doubled down at the end. And I cried. I fully cried in front of
Yes,
them too.
of course.
Like, I
Who
don't know what to do
wouldn't?
about this.
Oh
No,
man.
I gotta find that email. I'll send you the email that I find
Yeah,
afterwards from
please.
the university, because the university was really grateful about it, and
That's
like
good.
that clinician or that professor who did all of our placements and like was the coordinator for the university for our outplacements, because we didn't have an on-campus clinic. All we did was outplacements.
Mhm.
Was like, this is so objectively false. Like, I know you and I've known you, because that's the other thing. I went to undergrad and grad school at the same
Yeah,
university. And so these professors knew me for like 6 years. And so they were like, I don't know where this is coming from.
so
And
crazy.
so, yeah, in April before I graduated, I was like, I'm not going to be an SLP. So anyways, because of one single cost of competency.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, it is
Mhm,
crazy.
mhm,
I've definitely heard stories like that.
mhm.
Luckily, my experience was not chock full of stuff like that. Like, I did have a few supervisors that said some things that were a little out of pocket and shook my confidence for sure, but it wasn't stuff that it wasn't like
Oh,
personal
not
like
like a
that.
personal attack kind
It
of
wasn't
situation
a
where they're like,
personal
"We think
attack.
you're bad at this." Like, that was truly like the intent
And
and
then
message.
I did have this is a friend of ours who said that one time a supervisor saw her take data using a crayon during a PEDS session and said that that was unprofessional and like docked her points for it, which
That's also crazy.
now having worked in a school, I'm like, girl, if you're taking,
What else
I
are you
don't
gonna
care if
use?
you take data with nail polish, honestly.
Yeah,
Like it's you can do whatever
I'm
you have
finger
to
painting
do.
data out here. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know what you right?
yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So that's my crazy grad school experience. And it wasn't institutionalized. That's the important caveat
Yeah.
here. It was not institutionalized. This was just the mindset from kind of generational SLP trauma, question mark, question mark, question mark. Anyways, and they had gone to these
That
particular
sounds like a
people had
power
gone
trip.
to well, these particular people had gone to a big R1 in the area. And for people who don't know, an R1 is a really big research institution that
Okay, I
had
also
this.
didn't know that term, so
Did you not know that? Oh my gosh, no. They had gone to
Oh,
a
no, schools that are ranked, grad schools that are ranked high in, especially in research, get a complex about it. I toured
and
some
they
universities.
uh-huh.
I'm not naming names, but I toured some universities that were really big research institutions, and boy, did they beat you over the head with that. It
They
was
did. And
crazy.
they had the mindset that they were the best in the area and that
God's gift to
they were God's gift to the
psychology.
earth and their
Yep.
way was the only way. And when I tell you, and me coming from a university that was small and private, they were like, "Who? You can't possibly be." And here's the other thing. I think this was, and we can cut this part out. There was another grad student in that clinic at the same time who was from that institution that they had gone to. And so I think I was just not set up for success.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
um,
It's not right, but that does
it,
add a layer.
right. It added a layer. And so, and I accept that. And it's out of my control. Can't do anything about it now. I'm a better person for it. And I love my job and my kids make progress. So, you know what? Take
That's the
that.
thing. I look back on those experiences feeling so vindicated because I did have a supervisor say, she said to my face that she was determined not to like me at the beginning of the semester, but I won her over by the end,
See, this is what we're talking about.
which is a crazy thing to say to somebody, but I felt so
Somebody who's in
vindicated.
their 20s, like young 20s. Like you
Mhm.
were probably what, 22 at the time?
Yeah, like barely.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then I felt so vindicated and like kind of took it as a compliment. I don't know what that says about me, but I was like, haha, won you over, basically. But that is no, like that's not something that I would say to a student. I might think it. No, I'm just kidding. But that's an inside thought. No, I'm
Mhm.
totally joking. That's not something I would say to someone I was like supervising. I don't know. I don't know.
Or
It's
teaching, like, that's the other side of things,
yeah.
like, Outplacements are not the place where SLP students go to die. Like, these are places where you need to go learn. Like,
yeah, and I do think that it should be rigorous. I think one of the comments on that post said, like, this job is not that hard. We shouldn't act like it's brain surgery. And I'm like,
this job is kind of hard sometimes.
There's a lot to, you have to know a lot and understand a lot. At the same time, though, lives are not at stake. Like, making a mistake as a speech therapist is not the end of the world. And so I do agree with them on that front, where like sometimes it's not that serious. We work on a timeline of weeks, months, and years, not seconds. And so if you make a mistake, most of the time you can fix it.
Yep.
Fix it in the next lesson. So it's I think that I think that a lot of people are just on a power trip, and that is probably they're enabled, I think, by institutions. But
there's a real power dynamic there too that I think a lot of people take the opportunity to abuse, because you have somebody who's unpaid and doing your job for you, and so it's very easy to take advantage of them.
And that being said, I did have a lot of really fantastic supervisors that I learned.
Absolutely. I have some that I am still like, I think about the way that they did therapy and I'm like, I want to be them. Like, I had 1 out of my 5 placements be bad. So like, it was not the majority of my time. I
also, even the note thing, the like picking over my soap notes and stuff, that did. And I think because I'm a bit of a like, well, I'll show you type of mentality, but I was determined to be the best damn soap note writer this side of the Mississippi. Like, I was like, by the time that you get rid of me, you won't find a single thing to criticize. Like, it did push me to be excellent. I also know that you can push people to be excellent in different ways that doesn't involve preying upon their self-esteem and their time. So
really.
Yeah.
Well, I've had fun exploring the SLP subreddit. Like I said in the beginning, take it with a grain of salt. This is not always the nicest place, but it is a great place to go if you want some entertainment or some camaraderie, or if you need a place to vent. So
it's not always a cesspool. Sometimes
it's not always a cesspool.
And everybody needs a place to vent. So that's good too.
Truly.
Right. Yes, this has been fun. I liked this. Someday it would be fun to do a listener submission type episode like this, where we have people write in stories. So if you're listening right now and you would also like to see that happen, then comment and we will get one in the works. But this has been fun. So until next time, we have been Tell Me About It, an SLP podcast. You can find us on YouTube at Tell Me About It, an SLP podcast. And finally, all caught up and up to date on Spotify. It is 100% my fault that we weren't caught up on Spotify beforehand. And it was one of those things where I was like, how do I solve this problem? It's so insurmountable. And then as soon as I sat down and actually worked on it, it took me like an hour to fully.
Oh, that's so real.
Yeah, it was really, I was like, oh, that wasn't nearly as hard as I thought it was going to be. So anyway, now we're on Spotify as well. And we're also on Instagram at Tell Me About It SLP. And you can also find some clips of us on my TikTok at Bright Light Language, but that is also kind of a personal plug. So anyway, Francie, anything that you would like to plug personally?
I can't tell you how chronically offline I am. To the point that no, get this. This is totally a tangent and you can cut this out later. But I'm so offline that one of our teachers likes to go around and like make videos and do pranks or things like that. And they did one of those like find old pictures on your Facebook to like be like, hey, sign this, right? They couldn't find anything for me. I'm so locked down.
Not even like a high school picture on Facebook?
I did not know that this prank had happened until our staff meeting yesterday. And Peyton, the other SLP, was like, did she do this to you? And I was like, no.
You're off the grid.
I'm off the grid. I'm just here to talk about being an SLP, and then I go back into my hole. Okay.
Yeah, I'm becoming increasingly more online, and this might be my.
This is my gateway.
It hasn't been a bad thing yet. I think it has the potential to be my villain origin story. So let's we'll find out.
I love that.
All right. Well, this has been fun.
Next time. See you
And
next
we'll
time.
see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.